On our journey of building a software as a service here on this channel, we found that a good project brief contains 6 elements. First is a kickoff, then we have the product strategy, then we have management, and then the functional specification, which is super important, then implementation details and maintenance. In order to make sure that this is actually everything we need, I already had the call with Melasho, my developer, and he confirmed that this is everything he needs in order to get started. But why am I actually making this video? Well, I've been part of many software teams and I have shipped a lot of software myself. And I always found that the good project brief was lacking. There were always implementation details being thrown around and there were always new rules for management. But very rarely we had a comprehensive, complete document that described the whole project and why we're doing it and how we're doing that. So I want to change this. I want to give you the tool to run your next software project better, and that's why I combined all the methods, all the details we need in one document, and you can also download this document on my website. On my website on tilcarlos.com/project-brief, you will find this post. We're probably going to write a bit more about it, but once you click on the downloads, you can actually download this here after you put in your email. In my experience, the worst project failures come when projects go over budget. With software, you almost can always fix it. You almost can always add more people and add more resources, and at one point something will work. But then it's already a failure when the costs are 2x, 3x of the original planned budget. And this almost always happens when the planning is not enough. But now, of course, the question is, how do we plan right? Well, let's start with a project brief. Let's start with a method to write everything down in one document. And in order to practice what I preach, I'm actually making my own software as a service here on this YouTube channel. And during the phase of project planning, I had a call with our developer, Melasho, and went through the whole project brief with me together. And we discuss all the open questions he has, and then we are bringing them back into the project brief in order to make sure that this is complete now.
Yeah, sure. We can try different approaches in performance perspective and other. Yeah, I think, yeah, the admin feature is not too much complex, I think.
So basically, we are defining the project brief as a couple of W questions. When you download the template from our website, you will see this as an actionable template where you can just fill in the blanks. And you will also get a link to the project brief we are using here. So if you want to read anything of this, you will find this on this document. You can also just watch the YouTube video because we are going through everything here right now. Let's quickly look at this document and then we're going through all the different parts. We also have slides we're going to publish on LinkedIn, but just me walking through the document is probably gives you a better understanding of how we should do things. The project kickoff, we had this before. We have another project kickoff template also in the download section here. This is something where you can just choose the questions you want to have. I chose a couple of questions that were important for me. Especially executive summary, so everybody sees exactly what this is about. I also added a logo in order to make sure that it has some visuals. We actually did some homework. We have a logo already. I added the main use case, which is very important for me because this really defines our MVP. The definition of MVP is it is one use case done really well. It is not many use cases, it is one. And then we have a bit of planning things, so like project assumptions and project risk. This was super important. There is another video we're going to make later about project estimation, so how much would a project actually cost. And what came out of it was that the project risk is mostly the uploading of this. So we are making a Loom clone. I'm just going to quickly show how this is going to look like later on. So these are some wireframes. We will see them in the project brief as well. Uploading a video to our web server will be some effort and it will be hard to get it right. So this is the thing that is definitely a project risk here. So we need to use a certain technology in order to handle asynchronous uploads. This is also our critical path. So what we want to do first, and this is something that now correlates here. So the critical path is the first milestone. We want to make sure that the uploading will get done. And things that are trivial, for example, user management, we are moving this to later. So seeing the critical path, this is also our first milestone. This is how we plan the whole software. So ideally, the developer gets this to me first. And once that's done, then he shows me how we can merge the videos. And after that, it's all the management app around it. This is trivial. This can probably be done in 1 or 2 days. but this thing is here is hard. So I always try to start a product by making the critical path first, making a so-called proof of concept or critical path. Another thing from the kickoff template is the value to be created and how we define winning. For me, the software is already a success if we can use it internally in my company pairing. And then we have a couple of other things like related interests and anti-goals. For me, it's important that I can make YouTube videos about it, so you guys can learn from how we do things, and then we can also compare how the planning matches up with the actual end result. And also anti-goals, because I don't want to play the PO too much. 30 minutes per day should be enough. The software should not be too fancy. So an anti-goal is if something is too polished, I feel like we have missed the mark here. Then we have the product strategy, and this is something I just copied from a guy called Roman Pichler. Here he has a YouTube channel and he has 2 popular videos which you can check out: the product vision board and the product roadmap. And this is quite important in order to set really the stage of how do we go about doing something, and what is the value that we create, what's the business value. So I wrote this down here as a product vision, and I also clearly defined of the product that we wanted to sell. So this is still being worked on, but this is a preliminary version that I think we can sell later. So we have an open source which is without users, we have a premium self-hosted version, and then also we will probably make a SaaS version just to make sure that you can try it out without having to install it on yourself. Okay, and then we also go through the jobs to be done, which we also explain in another video, this which you can find on my channel. This is quite important just to state like, what is the thing we're actually doing here? We want to share, we want to produce URLs that we can share with the team. And once people go to the URLs, they would actually see the video, the screencast. So the management section, just 2 people on it, 1 developer, 1 PO. We don't have a PM, we have to wing it. But that's fine for now, because maybe in a later project, in another one, we will have a bigger team and we would describe this more. But for now, I really want to keep it simple and get something off the ground. The methodology, now this is very important for me. And I'm going to show you a quick preview of how this is going to look like. So we will have end of day videos, and I'm probably going to make another video about this. For me, it's important that we have, the first one's already made. This is really cool. So for me, it's important that we have a time tracking of what has been worked on and how much time did we spend on it. This will be a daily time tracking sheet here. And then daily end of day meetings. So this is what we have here. So we specify the methodology of how we work. I guess in other projects, it will probably just say we're using Scrum with these extra features, or we're using Kanban, but with these routines. We have meetings every Monday and so on. So we specify everything here. We also say that I'm available daily for Q&A sessions, and then we have a weekly status meeting. Hopefully this will only have 2 weekly meetings if the project runs according to the estimation. Okay, also part of the management is the Git workflow, which I think is important. How do we actually merge code into the code base? So we're using something here, it's called GitHub Flow. It's not Git Flow, it is GitHub Flow. It's documented here, and it's a really good way to do things because it's simple. I think they have some graphics here, but you can check this out later. I'll probably make another video on this at one point. You don't need to understand much about Git, but it's just really a very lean method to bring code back into the repository. I also define some naming standards. And that's about it here. Okay, then we have the functional specification, and this section is probably a bit shallow because I have specified quite a bit on Figma and I copied a lot of things in here. So on the Figma board, we're using something called breadboards. We specified everything, and we could make wireframes, and we do actually have wireframes for this section here. But what we figured is that all these things can be done without wireframes. So we're basically skipping a step and we don't need a designer in this case, or UX designer. And I'll probably make another video on this as well, because this is a technology that's very interesting to use. Okay, so it's just like specification. We also add some wireframes because we already have them. And during the call with Melasho, I found that a couple of things are not specified. For example, archive videos. So we don't have the method, or we previously didn't talk about the archive videos. I would still say it's a good way to do things, because it's so-called soft delete. A soft delete is something where you don't really delete something in the database, you just mark it as archived and you can debug things later. Okay, more specification. And yeah, if you want to read the whole thing, you can find it on my website again. And then also, this is interesting, we have all the user stories of features stated. And yes, they're not in the user story format. I know I'm gonna do this at one point, probably in a Trello or in a Jira. But this comes straight from the estimation sheet. I can also show you the estimation sheet here. So this is what the developer estimated. And so for every feature, we now have a key for this, and this can be used for our time tracking and also for the GitLab, where we then see this is the feature he worked on. So this is helpful, especially for smaller projects. For bigger projects, you might have your data extraction routine that compiles everything and gives you a certain intelligence. Okay, and then the implementation. This is important for us because we are going to maintain the software in our own team or with other developers, and we decided to use Ruby on Rails in my company. So this should also be done with Ruby on Rails, and we specify also a couple of smaller things that are like our standard stack that we also want to see applied here. Also UI frameworks, the standard stack here. We had a call previously with UX designer Katharina Schluck, which is another video that's going online, or is already online. She said we should for sure use UI frameworks just to be faster and to save time on the whole specification of UI and UX. So we're going to use Tailwind CSS and some framework that Milashu is going to choose. Okay, and JavaScript. Cool, then we are about testing. So now this is something where I would also give the developers some agency and tell them they could choose that. But this is the minimum test coverage we need in order to have this acceptable. And some people might say, oh, we need 90, we need 100. Yes, true, I agree. But in the end, it's an MVP that we use for our own internal processes for now. So it should be fine with 80%. We described the programming style. And again, those things are not important if you are not technical. If you have a developer, the developer should be able to fill this out. But it's important that the developer fills it out. Don't leave this open. If a developer says he's adhering to a certain standard, he's going to write it down. If the developer does not know his standard for the code and the style, then maybe get another developer or really get him trained on this. Okay, then we have some design patterns. I just added some things that I like here, and security for authentication and authorization. These are details, but I specified them just to make sure that everything is understood. Okay, and then we have the maintenance, where we say how do we deploy this and what kind of services we need. And yeah, I didn't specify here the tracking. We probably just need Sentry. Oh, it's specified here. We need Sentry in order to track the errors. Cool, so this is the project brief we have right now, and once the project is done, we're gonna go back to this and have a look if everything was fulfilled as we planned it to. Now Milashu is working. He has the code. I gave him a repository. He has the project brief. He has a Trello where he now manages his tasks, and he's doing daily updates. Now the project is started, and I'm very curious how the next days go. I'm gonna keep you guys updated on this YouTube channel. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please do this now. Also leave a like, because in the next videos, we're actually showing you what the actual progress is of this project. And at one point, we also have it live and you can try it out for yourself.